Hello, Steve Weiss Music. My name is Chris Deviney. I'm the principal percussionist of the Philadelphia Orchestra, and I'm here today at the University of Delaware for a percussion seminar that I'm going to give a class at. The instruments I'm using are all Pearl Adams based, marimba, xylophone, snare drum. Adams 5.0 is what the university has provided for me, and it's also what we use in the orchestra. Marimba mallets can vary. It depends on the acoustic situation. In our hall, a little bit larger than most acoustic spaces, we generally have to go with something that's pretty articulate. But I use a lot of IP mallets. I'm an IP endorser, so I have the orchestral line, which is something that I helped develop a long time ago. I use a lot of those mallets on xylophone, glockenspiel, crotales. When it comes to marimba and vibraphone, I will sometimes actually ask IP to make me some custom mallets for an articulation that I want, but I use a lot of artists that IP has. Chi, Wu, marimba mallets work very, very well in a lot of things that we do in the orchestra. I find on vibraphone though, oftentimes because of our acoustic situation, I have to use a mallet that's a little bit harder than I would think I need to. And so sometimes I'm asking them for models that they already have, and sometimes actually to get them to wrap extra tight some models that will actually produce that articulation that we need to project out into a large hall like that. Like I said, on xylophone and glockenspiel, I have mostly IP mallets. This is one of 4 bags that I have just like this of mallets, so this is by far not my collection, but it's what I brought today to consolidate what I'm going to be using today. The orchestra for many decades played in the Academy of Music, which is a very, very unresonant hall. And when they got to Verizon Hall, which we have played in since 2000, it's a much more resonant hall, more low projection and not much high projection, which for these instruments like glockenspiel and xylophone is very important to know what the capability of the hall is. So I tend to go with mallets, again, like I said about marimba, that are a little bit on the harder side than I might normally to get that projection that will cut through, 90 plus people sometimes playing on stage. To make sure that that's actually happening, sometimes we will send each other in the section out into the hall if they're not playing to give us some feedback. We do that. Angie and I help Angie, she helps me. Don, our timpanist, sometimes will sit out in the hall. So that's very typical in our orchestra. We try to rely on each other's ears because what you hear on stage sometimes is not actually what gets out to the audience, and that can affect what kind of mallets you actually choose. A couple of xylophone excerpts that I'm going to play today involve this idea that I was talking about of choosing mallets and how to choose a mallet. A very soft, but the way it's written, at least in the passage from Stravinsky's Firebird, the complete ballet, is a section that oftentimes can be played very flat as written because there's really not much dynamic indication in the part. But it goes something like this. Takes a little bit of touch, to make sure that you can get some of these inflections, some of the swelling within the line. That makes it more interesting than actually what's written. If you get a close up there, it just says all notes piano. Well, that's not going to do. If you talk to somebody, it's not all monosyllabic. You have inflection, you indicate certain syllables, and others maybe you don't. And a little bit loud, maybe a little bit soft. And that's how people communicate when they talk, right? Well, this is another form of communication, and you just don't want to be caught playing flat. And that's basically what I'm going to talk about today. On snare drum, I'll be playing on a Pearl Philharmonic 5-inch for a couple of excerpts, loud and soft. It's a nice sized drum. If you're going to an audition and you can only bring one drum, then a 5-inch is probably a wise choice because you can cover a lot of ground on the excerpts they'll be asking. Ideally, you want to bring more than one drum to an audition, and we certainly play on more than one drum in the orchestra. So Just today, I'm going to use this one for some loud excerpts like Shostakovich 11, and some soft excerpts like Lieutenant Kiji and Prokofiev 5, which involve some delicate embellishment execution. I used to work at Steve Weiss Music many years ago myself. I still remember those days very fondly. Steve was a very interesting and unique guy. I don't think there'll be another one like him. Sometimes it was easy to work for Steve, sometimes it wasn't. But he was always entertaining, fair, and he was a good boss to work for. And I definitely got the retail side of the business in my blood working for him, and I'm somewhat familiar as a result. So I'm going to get ready for this clinic now, and get your stuff at Steve Weiss.